So we're working out of this book and we're breaking the chapters down into chunks. And the information that we'll be discussing today is going to come from chapter 3, the Kabbalistic Cross and the Pentagram Ritual. And so we did make a video on the Kabbalistic Cross already, and that's on YouTube. It's kind of long and boring, but maybe you could listen to it in the background while you're cooking your plantains, as I often do. The second we did, and then we looked at the pentagram ritual, the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram. We looked specifically at pentagrams and how pentagrams are drawn. So that was a really important aspect of what we're doing with this ritual. And today we're gonna look at some visualizations that go along with the Kabbalistic cross and the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, or LBRP for short. And so here, I'll do this. And now, so what we're doing is we're working towards getting to a place where we can do rituals together collectively as a group. So we're trying to explain more in depth, get more detail, and get more experience together as a group so that we have more confidence when Temple Thursday happens. Then people can start joining in and doing different aspects as they are comfortable. So what I'll probably start doing sometime in the very near future is putting the liturgy up and giving people an opportunity to fill their names in where they would like to do certain things and breaking them down into little chunks. So hopefully these sorts of instructions are going to build your confidence and build your ability to be able to do that.
And you've been doing more of the rituals. And so tell, what's it like going from watching to actually doing the ritual itself? Is there a big difference?
Are you asking me?
I'm asking you, yes.
Yeah, doing the ritual is vastly more impactful than watching the ritual. It's nice to watch the ritual and it's nice to observe the ritual. And I think that's kind of an important part of the process, is to acclimate yourself to the energy of being in ritual, because that can be a thing. But once you've acclimated to that energy, then what you want to do is lean in to those feelings of discomfort and kind of grow your energy body, your magical self, so that you can begin doing it. And so,
and being able to do it on your own.
Being able to do it is pretty powerful.
That's the ultimate goal, is everyone in the group can do any of these rituals whenever they want.
Right. There is that very predictable pattern of going through the what the heck is going on phase that can last for a while. So I wanted to kind of present a couple of ideas first. And the first idea is this idea of what a mythology is, and how we can use the idea that things are a mythology to objectify them in our minds. And a lot of times when people haven't had a huge amount of religious training, or they've only had one kind of religious training, then when they encounter other religio-spiritual trainings or ideas, then they can approach it in the manner of, do I believe this? Is this true? Does this work for me? Like, how am I going to take this thing and use it for myself? Which makes sense, and it's really logical. But I'd like to highlight the idea, really emphasize the idea that we can approach an idea for understanding it, for being curious about it, and not necessarily feel like it needs to become our life path or our life's mission, but it adds to whatever it is that we are doing. And that by understanding something, even if you don't agree with it, that you're adding to your knowledge and you're giving yourself more pieces by which to put the universe together and help it make sense. And there have certainly been times where I have collected information and suspended judgment on it. Like, I don't know what to think about that, so I'm just going to file it away for later. There's a lot of things that are coming up these days that are particularly challenging to our worldview and our understanding of reality. And we might be very eager to dismiss them. But if we do that, then we actually miss a lot of the important things that come up that would otherwise support them because we've written them out. And so now we aren't able to put the world together as effectively as we could have had we held on to that idea in sort of a, kind of hold it off to the side in the what if space and kind of, oh, here's a piece of information that goes where? Oh, that goes with this what if space over here that I've been saving. That's interesting. So like if you identify your concepts of creator or your concepts of your body or how energy works or something like that, or your idea of your relationship to all of those things, then a lot of the pieces that we describe in the process of becoming a ritual magician, which is really the process of self-actualization, we just call it ritual magician. Evolving to the next level of our birthright, you're going to see some stuff. And a lot of people will run it through the filter of previous filters that they had. So I want to remind you that we can always go deeper and deeper into curiosity and really lean into, and if you are a person who has already worked with that, then what I would offer to you is that you be very aware of these areas where the frictions come up, where you're like, well, I'm here, but I'm not necessarily going to do that or lean into those pieces or try, that there might be some tension there and some ideas about that, or maybe some judgment about that, because that's a never-ending process and it always goes deeper and deeper. We have tons of it. And the way that we handle that is not by trying to understand it, but by feeling it in our bodies with our feet and our breath. Igniting the Kabbalistic cross and using that energy to illuminate it and see what that does. See what that does to those tense spots in your conceptualization of the world. So, does anybody want to comment on that? Do you want to comment first? How we approach multiple mythos.
Well, the idea is that you look at a lot of mythologies and you don't have to commit to believing any of them as being factual. And look at the commonalities. That's why we like to study people like Joseph Campbell, who look at the meta myth that exists throughout all of our storytelling as a human species. And people like Carl Jung, who identify archetypes, common ideas from the human experience, like mother, father, the lover, and those archetypes and those meta myths show up in our ritual practice, in the tarot, for instance, as a way that we can relate to these much bigger concepts, that we can approach the greater part of ourselves, the collective unconscious, and understand the universe in an intuitive way, bring it out back to our thinking selves, our air of air selves.
the more mythologies that we have, the more that we can compare. I think a lot of people have problems with, like, for example, the Egyptian pantheon, because they don't have any experience with it. And so then they'll feel uncomfortable doing it because they don't have experience with it.
Yeah, I mean, the Egyptian mythology that we use is part of the tradition, and it has a certain cultural neutrality to it, being unfamiliar at first to a lot of people. But once you start to examine, you find that there are archetypes, and when we approach these different pagan deities, they're viewed as archetypal figures from mythology, as power centers that have been worshipped for tens of thousands of years in some cases. They're things that once we get to know them, we can start to identify with them, and we go, oh, that's that aspect of myself. That's that aspect of the human experience. And so the Egyptian deities form those PowerPoints. And so when we do rituals, we invoke them because they allow us access to those aspects of ourselves and aspects of the collective unconscious. And they have personalities and directions and colors and things that they're responsible for. And it helps us to build ritual meaning. So as compared to the angels, which we lack a really good word for angels, but the angelic forces represent parts of the creation of the universe. They're less archetypal and more mechanics of the universe.
So thanks for that. Sure. We're going to get more into the angels very shortly. Did anybody have any questions or comments regarding the concept of different mythologies that they wanted to add? Okay, so then we also want to talk about Christian themes and how Christian themes can bump up against a beginner's practice. That's one of the first things that we seem to see people who are just starting with ritual magic. They bump up against what they know and the themes and what's often called church damage. And this can happen to people who do not identify as Christian and who are not practicing Christian practitioners or any kind of religious practitioner. If you are kind of raised in an American culture, then you're going to pick up on a lot of Christian archetypes and social programming and ideas about what we can and cannot do with regards to our religious teachings. And this comes up a lot, and you can anticipate that it will come up for you at various junctures, at various depths as we explore different ideas. So so be on the lookout for that. And if you do have an experience where you're like, we're drawing pentagrams. Oh my goodness, pentagrams are evil. What does this mean? What does this say about these people? And then your brain just starts spinning off in all of these different directions. The appropriate response to that is to reach out to us as soon as possible, because there are a lot of things that we can talk about with you and answer your questions directly around that.
One time I was talking to a police officer about occult stuff because I ran a crystal shop, and he was saying, "Oh yeah, we've had lots of training. Pentagrams are for devil worship and blah blah blah." And I said, "Well, you're wearing three. You have a gold one attached over your heart, and you have one on each of your shoulders, and you have several drawn on your car." And he kind of like looked off into space for a moment, because it apparently is not just for devil worshiping. It can also be a sign of protection. That's why he's wearing so many. Sign of protection and authority. And then if you notice, very often the sheriffs have a six-pointed star, right? Sheriffs have power over a larger area than a police officer. Police officers, microcosmic, pentagram. sheriffs, wide-ranging, macrocosmic, six-pointed star. It shows up, even with people not really realizing it.
I thought they did realize it.
Could you repeat that, please, a little louder?
I thought perhaps some of the police officers are initiated into occult things and do know about some stuff, but I could be wrong. I don't know. Like with Freemasonry or something analogous to that. I've just heard things talking with people that perhaps government people, you know, some of them. This is just speculation. I'm just trying to. I just think some of them might, you know.
There's a mythology that there are people who are using magical practices. Yes, that is a mythology. That's exactly what I mean by a mythology. It may be true, it may not be true, but it's a set of stories that some people tell, that there are various groups of people out there who are using magic, and I will say that there are stories of people using magic very differently than the way that we use magic. That's the thing about magic. You can use it in a lot of ways.
There's a lot of different traditions.
And it, yes, it gives the freedom to choose how you use it. Just to see what you're going to choose. Kind of weird the way reality's put together like that. All right, I'm super itchy today, so pardon me. Okay, so anything else on that, on those ideas before I get to the next chunk? And you can type a question into the chat if you don't want to say anything too. At any time. Anytime.
Yeah, I just wanted to say on the opposite side of that, growing up Catholic, right, very Catholic, I immediately had an aversion to the cross, you know, the crosses and the angels, because I'm like, you know, rejecting that from, you know, my youth. I rejected it. So it's hard for me to incorporate those parts into, you know, learning all the other mythologies, right? Because I have no problem accepting everything else. But with that one, I was like, I don't really want to do that thing. You know,
Right.
that cross of, so yeah, it's interesting for sure.
I went through that too.
And of course, all these things were taken from much older religions, and Christianity adopted them as it spread and took over. In the same way, many other religions, as they grow and spread, they absorb a lot of local practices and things and incorporate them into them. And then, of course, then there's the feedback loop. As magicians, we take what is done in the popular church and reincorporate it into our practices. So it flows both ways.
And part of that is probably knowing that we have those obstacles there. We call them kunda buffers, right? These kind of natural obstacles to spiritual growth that arise as we work towards it. We talk a lot about that. Okay, so if anybody else has any more questions, please type them in the chat. I'm going to go on to the next piece. So after we've done the Kabbalistic cross, which we have an audio for explaining, to kind of ground and center us, to bring light into our being, to announce to the world that we have arrived, we have accepted our spirituality, we are ready to do something, and we turn the light bulb on in the astral plane. The next thing that we do is the lesser banishing ritual, the pentagram. And so this is a part of a broader concept called the temple consecration. This is how we open a consecration, we create sacred space. And this is what Frieder is going to go into for us in depth next week. He's going to describe all this concept of what a temple consecration is.
The temple consecration is more advanced and more specialized. It's called the lesser banishing ritual of pentagram because lesser in this concept means general. Whereas a temple consecration means I'm going to create sacred space and set up anchor points, yada yada, because I'm going to do a big ritual. The LBRP can be done and should be done as a daily practice, and it has multiple effects. Not only does it create sacred space, it also centers and grounds and says, I am here, I'm standing on the earth between these four directions. I have, at least for now, I'm going to pretend that I know where I am and what I'm doing, and my universe is organized, as well as banishing and cleansing, and it acts as our kata, our basic form, for all the ritual techniques come out of the LBRP. Ritual vibrations of the names, drawing shapes in the air to set the space, ritual movement, the mudras, visualizations, all of that is all the basics that you need to do all the rest of the work. So as you use that as a way to encounter these energies and to practice your skills, it'll flow into everything else.
Okay. So the purpose of the LBRP, the ritual that we're looking at today, and that we did the YouTube video on with the pentagrams last time. The ritual that we'll be discussing today is the LBRP, and the purpose of it, after you've turned the light on in the astral plane and it walked into your spiritual body, is to let go of what you no longer need. 1, let go of what you don't need. 2, create sacred space to define the boundaries of your magical sphere. And 3, to protect. Okay. So after you have turned yourself on and lit up, then you say, and not only do I accept my own space, but I'm going to take all of this as well. And this is mine. And what happens in here is what I say in this time. It's mine. I have this piece of astral land. It is comprised of several pieces. The first piece is the visualization of the pentagram. The second piece is going to each direction and creating an effect through a very complex list of things. But you can just know that we will acknowledge the archangels that are associated with the watchtowers of each direction. Oh, here, I messed you up. Okay, the 3 parts, the 4 parts. Oh, I'm all over the place. Letting go of what you no longer need, defining your boundaries, protection, and to that you can add healing. Too many ideas clumped together, disorganized. The purpose of the process of the LBRP consists of 1, visualizing the pentagram, 2, the angels, and 3, the creation of a circle, as well as that's it, those 3. So the LBRP is the visualization of a pentagram, the angels, and the creation of a circle. The creation of a circle is a detail that we'll have to go into at some point. Today we're going to look at number 2. Each angel has a laundry list associated with it as well. It has and then so you'll want to write these down. It has a direction, it has a color, it has an element. It has a name, therefore a sound, and it has an angel. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're going to focus on those 5 pieces today, again. Now, if you can do the LBRP and you can visualize the pentagram, then it would be great to move on to some of these other visualizations. But these are a good number of visualizations, and we're going to walk you through them regularly and often. So you'll accumulate some practice, some experience with each one. Okay? Sound good? And then I'll tell you the list. So if you were here last week, you already know what the list is. But I'll tell you the list again. And then, so you'll have the list intellectually and you'll have it hopefully written down, and then we'll walk you through it. And then we'll be ready to walk through it. Okay? So to the east, we have yellow, air, and the intellect. The sound is Yud, He, Vav, He. And the angel, the archangel that's associated with the east is Raphael.
If you look in the books, it's going to be the tetragrammaton, the Yud He Va He, and that is pretty standard to vibrate Yud He Va He. I like to use Yehovah. See, the tetragrammaton is the unpronounceable name of God that was spoken once a year in the temple in Israel when they had Solomon's temple. And since we don't really know what the vowel sounds were for ancient Hebrew, we don't really know exactly how the word was said, which is cool in a way. And so I wanted to have a 3-syllable name because all the rest of the God names and the LBRP are 3 syllables. So you have 4 times 3 gives you 12, like the signs of the zodiac, representing the sphere of zodiac surrounding it. So I use Yehovah, which, according to biblical scholars, is a reasonable, likely pronunciation, but you still don't know. It's cool. So if you look at our file sections in the document, I have Yehovah as a pronunciation variant for Yud He Va He.
Okay.
Should we talk about air in the east?
Sure, go ahead.
So when you approach the east, the element is air. So
Hold on. I wanted to do this in the context of a guided meditation.
okay.
Okay, let's do that. And so you can add in pieces.
Sure.
Okay. So let's go ahead and we'll do a guided meditation. Oh darn, I don't have a bell.
Should I get a bell?
No, it's okay. So let me just give you the list intellectually. To the east, we have yellow, air, intellect, Yehovah, and Raphael. To the south, we have red, fire, the will, the angel, Michael, and the word Adonai, the name of God. To the west, we have blue, water, emotions, Gabriel, and the word, the God name, Ehie. And to the north, we have brown, that's earth, the physical body, Uriel, and Agela. And in the center, which is not necessarily represented by the LBRP, but I will give it to you right now, it's white, and it's represented by spirit. And who's the archangel that's associated with the center?
There isn't one in the LBRP,
There,
but
yeah.
you could use Raphael, I suppose.
Or don't there's a, if you pay attention and watch the temple consecrations, watch when we do the rituals, you'll hear specific deities that we're calling in for the center. Sometimes we call in Nuit when we do Nuit and Gab, and sometimes we call in Ehie.
Ehie is used
Ehie.
for the West and the LBRP.
But which is the one we use in the center? Sometimes when we're doing other.
Archangel?
No, it's not necessarily an archangel.
A god name.
It's just, yeah, an entity that we might call in for the center.
Oh, I think a lot of times we use the Anakim tetragrammaton.
And who's the angel that's associated with the center?
Anubeha.
Anubis, that's it. I had the E. I knew it was an E. Anubeha. But we're not going to do that. You just, if you pay attention when we do these rituals, you'll notice that we do various god names for the center. Okay. And so we're going to do a walkthrough. And after we do the walkthrough, we'll ask you for feedback on your experience, and then we'll go into the slideshow that Eric has for us. So that hopefully we're a little heavier on that aspect, and we can discuss things with that, but I'll give you space in each visualization to add a couple ideas.
Okay.
But, you know, just visualizations.
Okay.
So ground yourself in your feet and your breath, and bring yourself into the body. And as we go through this, you can put your pen down, and you can enter this at your level of comfort. You can observe mindfully, or you can participate fully, as you prefer. It's all at your level of comfort. And so we start at the crown of our head, where there erupts, moving from our heart center up to the crown of our head like a blooming flower, a brilliant orb of white light. And we reach our hand to this white light to connect into it, to add to it, to feel it energetically. And as we inhale, we feel it. And as we exhale, it grows. And we feed it with the sacred language of the Kabbalistic cross prayer. Ata. And we draw with our hand that energy down to the heart. Feel it connect strongly to the heart and feed the heart with that energy that is now coming down through our bodies and continuing to go down to the base of our spine, where we move our hand and we generate an orb of similar brilliance. And feel the establishment of that line of light that has gone from the head to the base along the spine. And we empower it with the word Malkuth. And on each inhalation, we feel and visualize that more strongly. And with each exhalation, it becomes brighter. And then we move our hand back up to our heart, drawing back up and over to the left shoulder, where we create a sphere of equal brilliance. And actually, we don't create, we just acknowledge that energy that is always there, illuminating us. We gather it and intensify it using the word Vegabura. And coming straight across through the heart again, stopping to acknowledge the heart. We hit the right shoulder and we build and intensify what is now a cross within ourselves with the language, the sound that the universe responds to. Vegadula. And then we come to the center. And we feel the strength of that cross united in the center of our being, illumined and amplified. Leolam Amen. And now from here, we orient ourselves to the eastern direction where the sun is rising. Look to the east and see the east with your eyes. Notice the colors of yellow. There are many colors, but notice the yellow shining forth in your environment, the things that are yellow, the things that contain yellow. The yellow that exists in all of the other colors. Feel the air that is outside of your body. Feel its movement or its stillness. Feel the air that is inside your body, your winds and your channels. Notice your thoughts as they relate to the quality of air. How are the thoughts moving? And notice what comes up in your body when you hear the sound. Yeah. Do you have anything to add?
The winds from the east are warm and moist. You feel the hot, humid winds that blow from the east.
And then we turn to the south. And if you can't physically turn, then imagine in your mind's eye that you are turning to the south. And see the color red. Notice all of the red that appears before you in this direction. Consider the element of fire. Notice the temperature that exists in your external environment, as well as your internal environment. This is the direction of your will. How is your motivation today? And the airs that are associated with the south are
hot and dry. The time of day is the noontime. The sun is at its zenith, and it's a hot, dry time.
and notice the feelings in the body as we call in the sound, the name of the deity that's associated with the south. Adonai. And turn and face the west. And see the color blue. See all of the shades of blue, the hints of blue, the sparkles of blue that lie beneath the reds, the greens, the whites, the browns, everything. Attune yourself to that color of blue in the world around you as you face to the west. This is associated with the element of water, the quality of emotions. Notice the humidity of the air around you. Notice the quality of water within you. Have you had enough water? Are you well hydrated? Is your skin hydrated? Are you holding the water in your body? The environment that's associated with the west is what?
Cold and wet. The time of day is the sunset. As the sun sets in the west, the heat and light of the sun go away, and the air becomes cool and moist.
And notice what your experience is in your body when I vibrate the frequency of the west. And then we move to the north. The north, I can see it in mirror. It's associated with the earth, with the physical world, with our physical bodies, with our dense formations of manifestation. How are we in relationship to our bodies? How does our body feel today? Does it feel a particular sensation? And how are we in relationship to that? What is our physical world around us? Is that as we would like it to be? Do we have prosperity and abundance? Do we perceive the prosperity and abundance flowing towards us? And the environment that's associated?
Cold and dry. The time of day is the middle of the night when the sun is at its farthest distance from us on the other side of the planet. So the winds from the north are cold and dry.
And notice the sensation in your body as we experience the name that unlocks the energies of the north. And we'll close by saying, around me flames the pentagrams, and within me shines the six-rayed star. Ata Malkuth, Vegadua, Vegabora, Meolam, Amen. How was that?
I thought it was great.
Yeah. So you'll have this on recording if you want to practice and review it. We'll do shorter and shorter versions as we move through time. Building upon the visualizations that we've already learned, we need to remember to add the pentagrams. Next time we'll add the pentagram to those visualizations and we'll go through them more quickly. Did that feel like it was something that everyone was able to follow along with and do? Yes. Okay. Any questions? So you guys have got this now. Terry, do you feel like you've got this? Yes.
All right.
Okay. Okay. Alrighty then, so this is the basis for what's going to become your temple consecration. The more confidence that you have with this, the easier it'll be for you to step into the larger and more complex rituals that we're about ready to do, including the temple consecration, which is not to be found in this book, but is moving into the 3 texts, which if we don't, do we have all 3 of those? The Temple of Limitless Light.
Yes.
The Enochian Star Temple, and the 3rd one is the Temple of Chem. So if you haven't gotten all 3 of those printed out, now would be a good time to either have them available for next week.
For next week.